Have you ever wondered which muscle cars are the most brutal and beautiful machines that time nearly forgot? Today, we're diving deep into American classics from the 1960s, hidden gems that many don't mention first, yet hide wild engines, incredible stories, and designs that still turn heads decades later. But before we fire up the engines, if this journey through true American muscle gets your heart racing like it does ours, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because here we celebrate timeless history together. Now then, let's hit the gas. 1969, Ford Torino Cobra. In the fierce battlefield of 1960s muscle cars, where the Mustang, Charger, and Camaro battled for glory, Ford had an ace up its sleeve for those who wanted something different, something purer, more aggressive. That ace was the 1969 Torino Cobra. This wasn't the kind of car you brought to show off at the coffee shop. This was the kind of car built to dominate the quarter mile and watch your rivals fade into the smoke behind you. Its design said it all before you even turned the key. Long flowing lines, an aggressive front end with a wide grille and dual integrated headlights. But the real show began under the hood. There sat the feared 428 Cobra Jet V8, a 7.0-liter powerhouse that was officially rated at 335 horsepower, but everyone knew it made well over 400 real horsepower, with torque that felt endless, over 610 Newton-meters, around 610 pound-feet, 450 pound-feet. Ready to shred asphalt with every stomp of the throttle, this monster could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just over 5.5 seconds, putting it toe-to-toe with the era's biggest names, and reached speeds near 135 miles per hour. Offered with either a 4-speed manual or a C6 automatic, the Torino Cobra delivered a brutally direct driving experience. No electronics, no assists, no filters, just you, the wheel, the engine, and the road. In total, Ford produced around 14,000 Torino Cobras in 1969, making it a relatively rare find today. A well-preserved example with original engine and transmission can go for $80,000 to $120,000 at specialty auctions. And here's a fun fact few people remember. The name Cobra wasn't just a flashy branding choice. Ford aimed to ride the wave of the Shelby Cobra's fame, but this venom came in a different form. Bigger, heavier, but just as deadly in a straight line. On NASCAR tracks, it became a feared weapon on high-speed ovals, bringing American muscle into a world of endurance and sustained velocity. 1967, Pontiac Firebird 400. In the high-stakes world of 1960s muscle cars, where every brand was fighting to outdo itself in power, design, and attitude, Pontiac launched what can only be described as a rolling work of art. The 1967 Firebird 400. This model wasn't just Pontiac's direct answer to the explosive success of the Chevrolet Camaro and Ford Mustang. It brought its own personality, its own roar, its own untamed identity. At first glance, the Firebird 400 was restrained aggression. Its long hood ended in that iconic split grille, like a bird of prey ready to strike. The functional hood scoops weren't just for show. They funneled fresh air directly to the engine, feeding the beast that lay beneath that endless hood. And what a beast it was! The 400 cubic inch, 6.6-liter V8 delivered an impressive 325 horsepower and over 580 Newton-meters, around 428 pound-feet of torque, enough to launch the Firebird from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just under 6 seconds, depending on the driver and transmission choice, either a 4-speed manual or a 3-speed automatic. Its top speed approached 130 miles per hour, making it a true asphalt predator in its time. But the Firebird 400 wasn't just a straight-line brute. Thanks to a well-tuned suspension and a relatively low center of gravity, it handled surprisingly well in corners, something not common in most muscle cars of the era. Inside, it was simple but sporty, with well-placed gauges and bucket seats that hugged the driver when the engine unleashed its fury. Pontiac built around 82,000 Firebird 400s in 1967, making it a highly desirable classic today. Well-preserved factory original examples can easily fetch between $75,000 and $100,000 at auctions and collector events. Here's a curious fact that makes it even more special. The Firebird almost didn't exist. Pontiac originally planned to launch a completely independent model, but pressure from General Motors forced them to share a platform with the Camaro. Still, thanks to its unique engines and distinctive styling, the Firebird carved out its own identity and built a cult following that's still going strong today. 1968, Dodge Charger 500. When Dodge launched the Charger in 1966, it was already an impressive machine. But in 1968, they completely redrew the muscle car silhouette, unveiling a design that still takes your breath away. However, when Dodge tried to dominate high-speed NASCAR ovals with it, they realized the fastback design, gorgeous as it was, created too much aerodynamic drag. That's how the 1968 Dodge Charger 500 was born, the first serious attempt to turn the sleekest muscle car into a true race weapon. At first glance, the Charger 500 looked like a regular Charger, but the differences were where it counted most: aerodynamics. Dodge eliminated the iconic hidden headlights and replaced them with a flush-mounted grille borrowed from the Coronet, improving airflow at the front. They also redesigned the rear window, replacing the deeply inset glass with a flush, fastback-style rear, significantly reducing the drag that had crippled its high-speed performance. But the real brutality was under the hood. The Charger 500 came standard with the 440 Magnum 7.2-liter V8, producing an intimidating 375 horsepower and 651 Newton-meters, 480 pound-feet of torque. For the boldest drivers, the legendary 426 Hemi 7.0-liter V8 was also available, officially rated at 425 horsepower, though everyone knew it made more. This monster could hit 60 miles per hour in just 5.3 seconds and top out around 143 miles per hour. Fearsome numbers even by today's standards. In total, Dodge built just 392 Charger 500 units in 1968, making it an extremely rare and highly collectible piece of muscle car history. A well-documented original Charger 500, especially with the HEMI, can easily surpass $200,000 at auction today. Here's a cool fact. The Charger 500 was only the beginning of Dodge's obsession with NASCAR speed. When it still wasn't enough to beat the Ford Torino Talladega, Dodge pushed things further in 1969 by creating the legendary Charger Daytona with its extended nose cone and massive rear wing. And now, I want to ask something that always divides true muscle car fans. Which one would you pick? The 1968 Charger 500, engineered to break NASCAR records? Or the iconic 1969 Charger with its unforgettable hidden headlight design that defined an entire generation? Let us know in the comments and tell us why. 1969 Buick GS400. When most people think of muscle cars, they imagine wild roars, flashy paint jobs, and reckless youth. But Buick decided to enter the game from a different angle: brutality in a tuxedo. That's how the GS400 was born, a car that blended Buick's sophisticated luxury with the raw power of the muscle car era. At first glance, the GS didn't shout like a Dodge or a Pontiac. Its design was subtle, refined, with smooth lines, tastefully placed chrome, and an imposing grille that made a statement without being loud. It was the kind of car an executive could park in front of the office. But once night fell, it could easily humiliate a cocky street racer at the stoplight. Under the hood, things got serious. The GS400 was powered by a 400 cubic inch 6.6-liter V8, producing 340 horsepower and a massive 610 Newton-meters, around 450 pound-feet of torque. But what truly impressed wasn't just the numbers. It was how the car delivered that power from low RPMs with dangerous smoothness, like a predator that barely needs to move to prove its dominance. This elegant monster could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 6.2 seconds, putting it shoulder to shoulder with the era's more famous muscle machines. And with a top speed around 130 miles per hour, it did it all wrapped in a surprisingly quiet and comfortable ride for a car with such a beast lurking under the hood. In total, Buick produced approximately 8,132 units of the GS400 in 1969, making it a relatively exclusive entry in the muscle car universe. Today, a well-preserved GS400 can easily fetch between $60,000 and $90,000, depending on its originality and condition. Fun fact, the GS400 was a direct forerunner of the legendary Buick GSX, which would debut a year later and take Buick's philosophy to the extreme, combining full luxury with absolutely brutal performance. 1969, Plymouth GTX. In the wild world of muscle cars, where many focused solely on power and ignored comfort or refinement, Plymouth set out to create something different, the brutal gentleman. Visually, the GTX struck a perfect balance between aggression and elegance. Its rectangular grille, chrome accents, clean yet muscular lines, and sporty hood stripes all hinted at serious muscle, but with style. It was the kind of car you could take to a business meeting or down to the drag strip. But the soul of the GTX lived under the hood. Standard power came from the 440 Super Commando 7.2-liter V8, delivering 375 horsepower and over 650 newton-meters, 480 pound-feet, of torque, enough to rocket it from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.6 seconds. For the brave, Plymouth offered the fearsome 426 Hemi-I 7.0-liter V8, officially rated at 425 horsepower, though real-world performance was even more savage, pushing speeds close to 143 miles per hour. Unlike its more Spartan cousin, the Roadrunner, the GTX came loaded with luxury options, higher-end interior materials, more comfortable seating, power steering, air conditioning, and premium sound systems for the era. In short, it was a muscle car that refused to sacrifice comfort for speed. In 1969, Plymouth built about 15,602 GTX units, making it a desirable collector's item today for those seeking something more exclusive than mass-produced models. Hemi-equipped examples in pristine condition can easily command over $150,000 at auction. Fun fact, the GTX was marketed as the gentleman's muscle car for the more mature man who wanted speed without giving up refinement. That philosophy made the GTX a unique figure in the muscle world, always respected, though often underrated by those who only chase raw numbers. 1969, Dodge Super B. If the Plymouth Roadrunner was the muscle car that democratized brute force, the Super B was its louder, bolder, and more in-your-face brother. Created under the same philosophy of maximum power, minimum cost, the Super B was made for those who wanted to go fast without emptying their wallets. The name Super B wasn't just catchy, it was a direct nod to Chrysler's B-body platform. This muscular B perfectly embodied the spirit of the car. Small for its engine, fast, agile, and always ready to sting hard on the quarter mile. Visually, the Super B oozed attitude. Its rear black stripes with the B emblem, hood scoops, muscular profile, and aggressive stance made it impossible to miss at any red light. Heads turned when a Super B rolled by, every single time. But the real savagery was under the hood. Standard power came from the 383 Magnum 6.3-liter V8, pumping out 335 horsepower and 425 pound-feet of torque, more than enough to leave thick rubber trails behind. For the power-hungry, Dodge offered the fearsome 426 HEMI 7.0-liter V8, unleashing acclaimed 425 horsepower and capable of launching the Super B from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just about 5.3 seconds. Absolutely devastating numbers for its time. Its top speed neared 137 miles per hour, but what truly captivated drivers was the instant surge of brutality every time you floored the gas. The car responded with a visceral roar that shook your chest and triggered uncontrollable grins. In 1969, Dodge built around 27,800 units of the Super B, making it one of the more accessible classic muscle cars today. However, well-preserved Hemi-powered versions can easily fetch over $130,000 on the collector's market. Fun fact, the Super B was one of the first muscle cars to offer a six-pack option in later versions. 3 two-barrel carburetors that boosted the 440 engine's output to nearly 390 horsepower. Now tell us, if you had to choose between the Super B and its cousin the Roadrunner, which would you take? Would you go for the Super B's wild aggression or the iconic charm of the Roadrunner? Drop your answer in the comments below, and let's turn this into a true muscle car showdown. 1968 AMC Javelin SST. The Javelin made a statement the moment you laid eyes on it. Its fastback silhouette, flowing side profile, long hood, low roof, and muscular fender arches made it stand out even among the era's most iconic muscle cars. It looked like a projectile ready to be fired, but AMC didn't stop its stunning design. Under the hood of the 1968 Javelin SST sat a 343 cubic inch 5.6-liter V8, capable of producing 280 horsepower and 384 pound-feet of torque, very respectable figures for its lightweight body. This setup allowed the Javelin SST to sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 7 seconds, with a top speed close to 124 miles per hour. For those craving more muscle, AMC also offered the 390 V8 as an upgrade, a 6.4-liter powerhouse cranking out 315 horsepower, transforming the Javelin into a legitimate contender in the muscle car world. And it retained AMC's signature traits: reliability and ease of maintenance. In total, AMC produced around 56,000 units of the Javelin SST in 1968, making it a relatively rare gem today, especially prized by enthusiasts who appreciate its unique approach to American performance. A well-kept Javelin SST can fetch between $45,000 and $70,000 in today's classic car market, depending on configuration and originality. Fun fact, the Javelin was so well received that AMC entered it in the Trans Am series, where it went head-to-head with legends like the Camaro Z28 and Mustang Boss 302. Thanks to its excellent weight balance and dynamic handling, it quickly earned the respect of drivers and racing fans alike. 1967 Dodge Dart GTS 383. In the muscle car world of the late 60s, where size usually meant power, Dodge played a different card. What if we took a compact car, stuffed a monstrous engine into it, and unleashed it on the streets? That's how the Dart GTS was born, a little wolf with lion's fangs. At first glance, the Dart kept the clean, compact essence of the base model, but subtle changes gave away its true nature. Discreet hood scoops, GTS badges, sporty stripes, and wide wheels hinted, without shouting, that something serious was lurking underneath. Its design was restrained, and that was the trap. The brutality came from the unexpected. Under the hood beat the mighty 383 Magnum 558, a 6.3-liter beast producing a solid 325 horsepower and 425 pound-foot torque. But what really stunned people was how that engine moved such a lightweight car. The result? 0 to 60 miles per hour in just over 6 seconds, absolutely terrifying for its size, and a top speed around 130 miles per hour. Buyers could choose between a 4-speed manual or the legendary 3-speed torque flight automatic transmission, depending on how hands-on they wanted their driving experience. For purists, the manual gave full control of the car's raw power. In 1967, Dodge produced just around 457 units of the Dart GTS with a 383 engine, making it a rare gem today. In the current collector market, a well-preserved Dart GTS 383 can easily fetch over $85,000. And it's only going up in value thanks to its rarity and reputation as a silent killer on the street racing scene. Fun fact, the GTS was Dodge's direct response to fans who wanted a compact car that could humiliate bigger machines at the drag strip. It did the job so well, It ended up building a cult following of its own in muscle car history. 1969, Chevrolet Nova SS 396. Chevrolet took a different approach with this one. They grabbed a relatively plain, compact body, stripped it of unnecessary frills, and dropped in one of their most powerful engines. The result? A true giant killer, a machine that struck without warning. The Nova SS kept a clean, almost innocent look. Simple lines, round headlights, a no-nonsense grille, and minimal chrome. But those who knew cars understood. When you spotted the 396 badge on the grille and fenders, you showed respect. Beneath that modest hood lurked a 396 cubic inch 6.5-liter big block Fuffer-8, producing 375 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque. What made the Nova SS 396 so dangerous was its weight, or lack of it. Much lighter than a Chevelle or a Camaro SS, this car translated every bit of horsepower into raw acceleration. The result was a violent launch from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.5 seconds, putting it on par with far more prestigious muscle cars. It topped out at over 130 miles per hour, but its true playground was the short, brutal burst of the drag strip. Chevy built around 17,654 units of the Nova SS 396 in 1969, but versions equipped with the high-performance L78 engine, offering the most power, are much rarer today and extremely sought after by collectors. In the current market, a pristine Nova SS 396 L78 can bring in anywhere from $80,000 to $120,000. Fun fact, the Nova SS became a street racer's secret weapon during the 70s. Because of its stealthy looks and insane performance, it earned the nickname Sleeper. Nobody expected a compact, family-looking car to annihilate opponents at the light or on the track. And now, we want to hear from you. Are you a fan of stealthy, deadly sleepers like the Nova SS? Or do you prefer the loud, big-bodied muscle icons like the Chevelle, Charger, or GTO? Let us know in the comments and help us fuel this debate between true American muscle lovers. 1966, Oldsmobile 442. When muscle car fever started taking over American streets in the mid-1960s, Oldsmobile, a brand traditionally known for comfort and elegance, decided it wanted in on the action. But like a true gentleman, it would do it its own way, with refinement, and a whole lot of controlled power. That's how the Oldsmobile 442 was born. And by 1966, the model had reached one of its highest points. The name 442 originally stood for 4-speed transmission, 4-barrel carburetors, dual, and dual exhaust. By 1966, the meaning had evolved slightly to fit different configurations, but the spirit remained the same. Raw power, wrapped in style. Visually, the 442 didn't need to be flashy. Its clean body lines, understated grille, subtle 442 badging, and elegant stance made it stand out through presence, not loudness. This was a car that commanded respect without shouting. Beneath that restrained image, however, lived a true beast, a 400 cubic inch 6.6-liter V8, producing 350 horsepower, and a brutal 440 pound-foot torque. Paired with either a 4-speed manual or the turbo-hydromatic automatic transmission, the 442 could rocket from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 6.3 seconds, serious numbers for its era, and reach a top speed close to 130 miles per hour. Oldsmobile built approximately 21,997 units of the 442 in 1966, making it a respected and highly sought-after classic today. A well-restored original example can fetch between $70,000 and $120,000 depending on rarity and condition. Fun fact, the 442 wasn't just known for its muscle, it was praised for its near-perfect balance between raw power and refined handling. With better brakes, suspension, and steering than many of its competitors, it delivered a driving experience that was agile, composed, and genuinely enjoyable, even on long highway stretches. And there you have it, 10 beautiful, brutal, and often overlooked muscle cars from the 1960s, machines that still stir hearts and ignite imaginations. Now I want to hear from you. Which one was your favorite, and what other 60s muscle car do you think deserves a spot on this list? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your input helps keep this community alive because we all share the same passion for the roar of classic American power. And if you haven't seen the first part of this special yet, you're missing out on true legends like the Charger RT, the GTO Judge, and the iconic Mach 1. Click now and keep the 60s muscle madness rolling.